the way that you build community is you do it through small businesses. If you know the people that you're spending money with, if you've got that local coffee shop around the corner and you know the owner really well and you know his kids and you know his kids' friends and they go to school with your kids, right? That is what builds community. And so the less small businesses we have built into our community, the more disconnected we are.
Welcome to the Success Flow Podcast, where our mission is simple: to be better each day and relay our findings with other relentless humans defining success for themselves. If that sounds like you, let's begin.
Man, I couldn't be more excited about this episode. We have an amazing guest, which is exciting because we don't always have guests on our episode, but when we do, we always bring the best individuals we can find. And this guy, I've known him for about 5 years now. And if you've never heard of Local First Arizona, you are about to find out, just because they do such amazing stuff behind the scenes for local small businesses, us individually. They're the largest coalition of businesses in the country, and we have them right here in our backyard in Arizona. And I've partnered with this specific person at a very high level in the way I do business with Journey Payroll here in Phoenix. But I'm excited to have Thomas Barr on, the VP of Business Development with Local First Arizona, and I can't wait to hear and dig in to your story, Thomas.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. Happy to be here. And yeah, I can't believe it's been maybe 6 years, 5 years, something like that. Close enough, though. It's been a fun ride.
We just celebrated 6 years of Journey Payroll, and I think we met like really shortly after that. And it was, it's been great ever since. So I'm happy you jumped on. Thanks so much. And we're excited to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. This one heated up pretty quick, and I've heard a lot of great things about Local First. Was super excited. No, we haven't met in person yet, so great to meet you on this medium. And I was doing some LinkedIn and internet stalking. Found out that there's also, if you didn't know this, my wife's from Ireland. There's a very famous track runner named Thomas Barr from Limerick.
There is.
Ireland. And I didn't know if that was going to be you, if we're going to talk a little track and field today.
I wish. I have Google Alerts set up on my email for Thomas Barr, just in case, there's like a media piece or something that Local First gets mentioned in. And for a while, it worked just well. And then about 5-6 years ago, I started getting flooded with Thomas Barr from Ireland because he's Olympic level competitor and he is always in the news, like almost every day. And so I had to turn it off because all I was getting was news about the next race he was doing, all this stuff. So I added him on Instagram and I was like, hey, we look pretty similar. I'm not an Olympic runner, but like we should connect. He never responded, but I do follow him, and he got a bronze medal in the last Olympics.
Maybe this is the media. Maybe we send this to Irish Thomas Barr after we're done here today, and that'll be the catalyst.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely
hilarious.
He's actually from Waterford too, Stephen, where you got, I know you're familiar with Waterford, got us a nice wedding gift from there.
Yeah, that's my go-to. I got my wife and I, when my dad and I did a trip to Ireland right before I got married, I bought a couple Waterford crystal champagne glasses for Kim and I for our wedding. And now that's like our go-to gift for weddings. And I don't think Waterford is, there's something's going on with that. Are they still doing production out there? I think they
stopped
now.
Production.
Yeah.
But we digress, very quickly digress out the gates on the Success Flow podcast. But for our listeners who may not have stalked you as much yet as I have, maybe we could just kick off by telling us a little bit about Thomas Barr. I know Stephen gave us a little bit of an intro with Local First, but maybe just give us an intro on a little bit of your story.
Absolutely, yeah, happy to. So I am Arizona born and raised, St. Luke's Hospital. I grew up in the West Valley, went to high school in downtown Phoenix, and ASU grad. I've lived in Tempe for a little over 18 years now. And Arizona has always been a place that's just super close to my heart. It's always been my home. I've always been proud of being from here, even though I'm not proud of everything that has always happened here. And I've always just thought it really important that as somebody that's from here that I contribute to making it a better place. I've, taken stints and lived in New York for a little while, lived in Houston. I've traveled and always felt myself being pulled back because I wanted to make my community a better place. So just about 10 years ago, I found Local First Arizona, and we are celebrating 20 years as an organization this year. But I was so connected to the organization because we are centralized around making Arizona better. And we do that through investing in entrepreneurs, through looking towards Arizona's future, and investing in the people that are here, providing everything that we can to make sure that we are localizing our strategies, as whether that's through connecting people to place, through economic development, through doing business. If you're not thinking about doing all of that from a local perspective, then, you're kind of behind on the times. So we're all about relationships. We're all about people. We put people first in all that we do. And, as I was growing up here, I saw so many people they were so anticipating leaving Arizona, that I always just was curious about why is that? Like, what is this pull for people to leave? And so I always just felt a sense of responsibility for this place. And that's why I found Local First. And it's been a wild 10 years, and would not change anything about it. So.
Yeah, you're super tight in with the community and everything that you do here locally. I mean, you mentioned relationships. I mean, that's really how things kicked off for us, because we're very much relationship driven and how we work with our partners and our clients. And, you could see that right away when you and I first met. And what's really cool about it is you kind of localize, as you said, entrepreneurs and businesses to help be ambassadors for Local First. I'm one of those guys that's on the Local First Business Advisory Council. You asked me to jump on that, and it was an opportunity. I was, hell yeah, let's go. Because I'm all about it. And one of the mindsets we have for our team is supporting the community that supports us. And so focusing on local small business in my space, what can I do to be a resource and give back to the local small business, even outside of payroll, just being in the community and how I can help. And so being on that, I've seen a lot of things that you guys do. But a lot of our listeners have no idea really, what you're working on. So kind of talk about the types of things, and the impact that you're making in the community that specifically LFA, Local First Arizona is working on right now.
Yeah. And so I absolutely will. I would also like to ground that in why we're even doing this work. And so, I look back at the last 20 years of Arizona, it's completely transformed, especially if you hyper-localize that and you look at Greater Phoenix. But every community in Arizona has really transformed in the last 20 years. When I was growing up here, like I mentioned, people couldn't wait to leave. People could not wait to leave the state. 2/3 of the people that live in Arizona are from somewhere else. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just a dynamic in our state that's very different, right? A lot of people move here and then they talk about back home when it's like, no, like this is your home now. You chose to live here. This is your home. You're responsible for this place too. So, we'd have conversations, run into people that, move out here and you find out, they're years later talking trash about the place that they live and they don't even vote, right? And it's just like, you have to be a part of this community. We all have to be accountable for this place. We all have to show up and volunteer. We've got to think about, what nonprofits are doing great work in the community. How can we support them? Giving back to local schools and clubs and things. There's all a role that we can play. And so Local First Arizona was started based off of, the way that you build community is you do it through small businesses. If you know the people that you're spending money with, if you've got that local coffee shop around the corner and you know the owner really well and you know his kids, and his kids' friends, and they go to school with your kids, right? That is what builds community. And so the less small businesses we have built into our community, the more disconnected we are. And so 20 years ago in Greater Phoenix, every 2 chain restaurants we'd have a local restaurant. That's completely flipped now. We now have 2 local restaurants for every chain. And so the dynamics of that changes how we feel connected to place, but also the viability of the economy. And so when we have more locally owned businesses doing business together, hiring people like Steven for their payroll, Steven's company hires more people to do work, which are local right here in Arizona, rather than living somewhere far away, it drives more jobs, it drives more tax revenue, it drives more activity right here in our Arizona local economy. And so everything that we do at Local First, every program that we have, is all based on connecting businesses together. We have lots of networking opportunities, lots of things where businesses can meet each other and build relationships. And then we build opportunities for businesses to get found and make it easy for people to support local. Whether you're an everyday consumer looking for a local coffee shop, and today for the first time you're thinking, wow, I don't think about shopping local, and you want to go find those local businesses, that's what Local First is here for. We try to make that easier for you. And then let's say you're a business owner and you're thinking about it as well. You're thinking, your office supplies, your web developer, your graphic designer, those people you've got to hire to function that the everyday consumer never thinks about. How can we connect more of those businesses together to drive more economic activity? So we've got resources, trainings, workshops, networking opportunities. We put on a huge fall festival in downtown Phoenix in November that brings out 15,000 people to find local businesses. And our job is to just lift up entrepreneurs and give them every resource they want and that they need in order to thrive and be successful in our state.
I'm curious, when you initially said, talking about that mindset of folks looking to potentially leave Arizona, being here 17 years. I moved here 17 years ago, and I'm hitting that halfway mark. Actually, will be this year. And to your point, taking responsibility and this being home now, have you seen those statistics changing or fluctuating at all differently given the influx of certain companies, or how is Local First kind of monitoring that? What are you seeing?
So there's still a huge influx of people coming here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think we definitely have seen an influx of people that grew up here that are finding opportunities here, right? I like to think of it as the opportunity in Arizona. There's a lot fewer rings to kiss, and people you got to get access to make something happen, right? We're relatively a great state to start a business. So if you've got an idea, you can go on the Secretary of State's website right now, register your company, and tap into people and resources pretty fast, right? It's pretty uncommon that you'd be in a big city, right? Fifth largest city in the country, Phoenix, Arizona. And it probably wouldn't be too hard for you to tap into the mayor's staff and contact them and invite them to a grand opening of whatever business you're starting. So there's such a robust ecosystem of people that want to work together that I think more and more young people are finding, hey, why would I want to move away to somewhere that's way more expensive than here to do all the things that I want to do when I already know the landscape of this place and have access to all the resources to do it. So Arizona to me is a small business state. It's a great place for entrepreneurs. We're seeing more and more great companies, not just starting, but growing and staying here. But we're also seeing a strong connection to place at the same time. I grin from ear to ear every time I see somebody wearing a State 48 t-shirt or with a PHX tattoo, right? The more we drive that local pride, the more people, aren't going to talk distasteful about our place, right? And so that pride actually drives economic development in the long term. Back when I was growing up, the only place you could get an Arizona t-shirt was at Walgreens. It's that weird map of the state.
Yeah.
It's just that was literally the only place you could get a t-shirt that said the word Arizona on it. Now you've got tons of companies building merch and, apparel and all of these things that show Arizona pride. So all of that is tied in together when we talk about creating a great place.
Yeah, for sure. Thomas, I was one of those guys. I don't know. I'm afraid to admit it a little bit, but I went to school here. I grew up here, went to college here. But then when my wife and I, after we had our son, we made a choice move to Colorado in 2013 because it was we've always lived here. Let's go explore somewhere else. Let's see what else. It wasn't that Arizona was bad. It was just let's go try something else. And we were back. Our daughter was born out there. We were back by the time she was 5 months old. We only lasted out there about 16 months. It was more of the whole, having the whole two kids thing without grandparents around was tough. Plus, the way I see it, there's a bad 3 months everywhere. And I'd rather hang out in a pool in 110 degrees than 10 degrees and 3 feet of snow. So that was one of the big reasons for us coming back. And you're right, though, because now, then we launched Journey in 2017 here in Phoenix, and the small business community from what I remember growing up, is just massive compared to how it was. Like our family restaurant was Chili's growing up, right? And now our family restaurant is the Creek right around the corner, right? So when I was a kid, it was the chain, and now I take my family to the local restaurant right on the corner here in Cave Creek. But I know you went to St. Mary's, right? And we've talked a lot of basketball in over the years. And like, you know, the Fontenette brothers, and you had Channing Frye, and you had some big name basketball guys there. And even Channing Frye played for the Suns. You're a big Suns fan guy. And what do you, so I'm going to divert here a little bit. The Suns are making some big moves, man. Like Ishbia he's pulling out the pocketbook. What do you think about the moves they're making this offseason?
Yeah, he's not hesitating at all.
No, he is not
making a splash, right? I mean, he's been owner for like 5 months, and it's a completely different landscape. So part of it is, I think, fantastic. So honestly, not even talking players, he's doing things that bring me back to my childhood, moving the Suns to Arizona Family 3 TV. I'm just like psyched, right? Like I don't have to buy another app. I don't have to worry about where and when I can watch them. Like making it a family, hometown, accessible team, ground zero. Like I just think that is so cool. I think that move is awesome. So I'm excited to see more young people following the team, connecting with the team right now. But I think they're going all in, with these player moves. I was sad to see the Twins go to New Jersey, of course, like breaks my heart. But
I love those guys.
We'll see what comes from it. The league is ever changing, and gotta believe in the opportunity that's there with Booker to build the infrastructure around him, and hopefully we get a ring out of it. We'll see.
From that's kind of a nice segue to kind of talk about the impact on sports on Phoenix as well. When we talk about the last 20 years moving here, and not only the Suns, but you had me thinking about the Waste Management Open and folks that live in other parts of the world or the country that are saying, oh wow, I've been tuning into the Waste Management Open the last 6-7 years. It's not just tumbleweeds out in Phoenix and Arizona, but what kind of impact do you see from a metric? I keep going back to the metrics, but just curious. We know that winning and having a city wrapped around a team is always good for business, but is it pretty evident when you're looking at the down years as well that you see a tie to small businesses when certain teams are performing year in, year out?
So very, very interesting question. There's a lot of evidence on both sides, but the example that I like to give is so one of the things that our founder did when she was starting Local First is she went around to a ton of people that were from Chicago that moved to Arizona. And she asked why do you love Chicago so much? And in a million ways, a million voices, they told her it was the small businesses. They'd say, walking to a pizza shop, the owner's making my pie. I went to the same barber for 20 years. My grandfather, I banked at the same bank my grandfather banked at. Like there was one weird way or another that the locally owned businesses tied them to the community. None of them said it's because the Cubs were great at baseball for 100 years. They literally lost for 100 years, but sold out Wrigley Field every time, right? And so a winning team doesn't necessarily drive connection to place in the ways we sometimes think that it can, but it can be a component in that connection to place that is really, really cool and valuable. When we had our finals run in, what was that, 2021?
Yeah,
2 years ago.
Yeah.
You saw local businesses activating in really cool ways. Wren House Brewing made, the Valley beer or the Rally beer.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Valley. You saw little Mexican restaurants and bakeries making Suns colored cookies and just different things like that. T-shirts, like it's a cool way for the businesses in the community to market themselves, to reach new audiences. Like you see so much creativity and innovation when it comes to that. So I think it's like it's an ever changing, but it's also like we can't put all of our coins in one pot, right? Like we can't just rely on potentially the Super Bowl coming here every 10 years to drive the economy, right? We've got to rely on the festivals and the local businesses that are here every day to make those people want to come here, right? And so it's a two-sided coin, and I think that there's a lot that goes into both ends of it.
Yeah, that's wild, right? Because as a consumer, sometimes you don't think about the impact of, like, I'm going to buy the Rally beer from Rent House, but as a business owner, you can think about, like, they got creative and they tapped into that winning atmosphere and said, hey, let's do something new and drive more revenue and whatever, but let's rally the community more importantly, and let's all root for the same team. And the impact and the effect that has on the local economy is pretty huge. And as Phil alluded to with the Waste Management Open, that's a crazy time out here in Phoenix, especially when the Super Bowl is here. You have Barrett Jackson and all that stuff. So it's just bringing a lot of people in, and then, sometimes we're okay with them going back home, but it's, was it Maricopa County is like the largest or fastest growing county in the country, like years in a row running. Right. Yeah. And that just brings a massive effect to the local economy. And I always knew that small businesses were the backbone of our country. And that's, it's really cool that Local First is at the forefront of that. And to hear your passion behind it, I think is what's really special, right? Like, cause I know Kimber, we'll talk about her a little bit, but how she started, but you and I were the first ones that met, and your passion behind this thing is, what drives that for you? Is it just small business? Is it everything? Like, what is the main passion behind getting involved with Local First, and what is it about Arizona that you love so much?
So I think there's a lot in there that drives my passion. I mean, I grew up during the Great Recession. I saw my parents almost lose their house, and I saw a lot of people go through that. I was 17 years old, and I was just like, man, what can I do to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again? And I see the heart and soul and the money that people pour into trying to build wealth for themselves through their local companies. And I guess, part of me has always just been a punk rock kid that always wanted to stick it to the man. But I don't know. I guess it just kind of comes from wanting to do something that actually makes a difference. And in a world where there's, don't want to be cliche, but in a world where you can be anything, like, why not make a difference, And I not only get to work on big issues, but also see the impact every day. And that's really special. Right. And I don't know, I laugh when I see TikTok sometimes where, it's people and they're just like, I saw one the other day and a guy was just like, I don't know if anybody's thought of this lately, but like, this is it, this is it. Like, this is all we get, So I don't know. I wake up and I just think that every day, like, this could be it. Like, this could be my last day. And if it's going to be, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I'm gonna help people, and I'm gonna try to make a difference. So I guess that's what drives it is, you're never guaranteed tomorrow. So why not do everything you can right now?
I love that. Being able to show up with purpose like that and within your community is fantastic. And that the group that Stephen and I are in together, we had Kimber Lanning come out and speak to us. That was my first exposure to First Local, and it was a very energetic conversation where the wheels were turning for everyone on how our decision making in regard to spending and how our household are making decisions day in, day out can have such an impact. And I was pretty taken aback by the fact that even just, the mindset of you can increase 10% of what you're putting through Amazon or a big box store, if you can shift that, like you said, coffee, hardware, those places, if you can just have that small shift, that it's actually, it has a ripple effect and quite an impact. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you're kind of communicating that to other groups? Because it was very impactful to me and my wife.
Yeah, so it's so we speak to a lot of groups all the time, go throughout Arizona, try to educate, inform, just kind of share why we're doing what we're doing. If you look at the economy, the wealth gap is continuing to grow, right? We've got a lot of people getting really rich and a lot of people not having the opportunity to build wealth for themselves. And so if you think of that from a collective perspective, we always talk about it as there's two types of power. There's power of people and power of money. And what if you could pull those two things together to make a lot of change? So if the power of a lot of people could shift, not 100%, we're not saying you've got to buy local always. That's why we're not local always Arizona. We're Local First Arizona, right? Yep. Incredibly difficult to do. But hey, if you think about it first, and let's just say, I think that there's a study that was done on roughly 1 million people. So let's say the city, everybody living in Tucson shifted just 10% of their money. So you went from 20% buying local to 30%, or somebody went from 10% to 20 or 35 to 45, but everybody did it. It'd have just such a massive impact on the economy, on the number of jobs created, the economic activity, the tax revenue that goes into repairing roads and schools and fire stations and parks and libraries, all of these things that make up the community. And that's just off of changing a small behavior, right? That's going and getting your new tires at a local auto shop instead of Costco. That's shifting your office supplies from Office Max to Wist Office Products in Tempe, Arizona as a business, right? That's getting your food at a local restaurant instead of the chain. And by making these small habitual changes, if we were to make everybody consider that impact, then it'd have a huge impact on our community and in the economy. So we just think about that collective power of shifting money, right? And so there's lots of studies that have shown, like, if this could be done, it'd have a radical impact on the economy.
Love that.
Yeah, it's cool you brought up habits and how it becomes habitual. Phil and I talk about that a lot in previous episodes, and just that, we talk about that 1% shift on a daily basis just compounds, right? And so if you start with that thought of just that one coffee at that local coffee shop instead of Starbucks, or just that one, and then it just, by 12 months from now, it could be 40% of a shift, not just 10, right? Because you're just building those habits and stacking them up.
Yeah.
So
the habits, it's crazy. Like, I mean, and we never shame anybody. It's not like,
yeah, right.
Like we're not here to shame people for shopping at Amazon or Walmart, but, I haven't bought a thing from Amazon in 16 years and I have a great life, like people are like, it's so hard. And I'm just like, it's actually not that hard. Like, but you don't have to do it tomorrow. Like, start somewhere and then see what I'm talking about,
Yeah. Well, I will say you're not shaming anybody. We get that for sure. But I will say that Pike's Place Coffee at Starbucks has no match on Mavericks off Shea and Scottsdale Road. Like, it just, for some reason, the local coffee shops, black coffee, no cream, no sugar, there's a difference when there's a little bit of passion behind it. It is. It's better for sure. Okay, so you brought up earlier Fall Fest. I've been there. I've taken my family there. It's a really cool event. I know it was kind of shut down for a couple of years during COVID, and then that came back. Fall Fest came out, I think, 2 years ago. We go to it every year. You've got the Arizona Good Business Summit, which is an annual summit that business owners and entrepreneurs and leaders go to, which is a lot of fun. We get involved with the Journey payroll side. But you also got the monthly mixers and the networking opportunities and all sorts of stuff. They're a lot of fun. I go to them. Talk to us a little bit about those events, the impact those make, as well as Fuerza Loca or Fuerza Local, We Rise, and the different things that you're doing to diversify the impact that you're making.
Yeah, so I like to think about it as kind of like a choose your own journey as you hit local first, right? You might not know everything that we have accessible, but our team we train our team that any business we meet, it's not like we meet you and then we throw you everything but the kitchen sink. It's like, hey, let's learn your story and where can you get plugged in for things that make sense for you. So you're absolutely right. Fall Festival, great for consumer-facing businesses. We bring out 15,000 people. You get to market yourself, sell your products right ahead of the holiday season. Good Business Summit is awesome. Lots of speakers, thought leadership, advancing good business strategies in the community. The mixers are great, if you're looking to get out and just network with the local business community. It's different than, other networking groups that might be oversaturated with a lot of salespeople or, non-local companies. You walk into a local first mixer, everybody owns a business, right? So, I might have a farmer and a guy that just launched a tech company meeting each other for the first time. It's pretty crazy. So we're doing a lot of stuff that you can tap into depending on the type of business you are. Fuerza Local and We Rise are incubator programs. They're accelerators for businesses in the Latino community and the Black community that are looking for resources. So these are 6-month programs. We help you build a business plan, access fair credit rates, build a marketing plan, launch your business, and build funding for yourself. We also do a ton of work in sustainability. So we help businesses create plans to decrease their environmental impact, whether that's water, waste, carbon emissions, just kind of taking a look at all those things. Because one thing we know is true is consumer purchasing habits are changing. And so if you're not marketing yourself as a sustainable business and you don't know how, you could come to Local First, and we've got experts that could train you how to do that so that you can tell people you're taking the steps to build a better community through how you operate. So there's a ton you can plug into. We've got boot camps for restaurants or retailers. So really any industry you're in, no matter what level you're at, you come to Local First and we'll find a way to get you tapped in and also tell your story. We've got 450,000 people following us on social media. So if there's an opportunity for us to get you plugged in, connect you to advertising, marketing, any of those outlets, we're always looking for resources and ways to help you elevate your business.
The commercial kitchen stuff too, right? You guys still have that going on?
Yeah, we've got 4 commercial kitchens. We'll have 5 next year. This is where we help incubate anybody that's got an idea to launch a food business, whether that's catering, food trucks. Maybe you want to open a restaurant one day or a bakery or something. We offer commercial kitchens where you can launch your business out of it.
That's awesome.
Well, before we wrap up here, we've got kind of a consistent closing question that we like to ask, just given the nature of the podcast. And that really is that success is different for everybody. And that's the beauty of this existence, which you kind of touched on a little bit earlier. So I'm curious, what is Thomas Barr's definition of success?
I noticed that in the notes you guys sent me before, and I was like, I can't even think about that. I was like, I don't want to think about that. I think success is when you've found enough gratitude to not be solely focused on your own, and your mission in all that you do is not just based on your own happiness, but helping others make better lives too. I think that's success.
I love that, man. That's just a giver mentality and supporting the community. That's what you're all about. We really appreciate you jumping on. Before we close up and wrap up this pod, last question. Let's say you're a business owner just starting out, or maybe not an incubator type person for one of the programs you have, like you're not eligible for that, but you've got maybe 1 or 2 employees, or maybe you've been in business for 2 years, maybe you've been in business for 20, but how can they get involved? And I know you've got 3,500, 4,000 business members, so you're huge. How does someone like that get involved and connect with you?
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you are, what phase in business you're in Arizona. It doesn't matter if you're in a rural town or Metro Phoenix downtown. Reach out to us. Go to our website, localfirstaz.com, or just look us up on social media. Send us a DM. Our team will filter that over to our business support team and get back to you. Add me on LinkedIn. Send me a message. Say hi. I'd love to meet you. And we'll get you tapped in. Would love to hear your story and see how we can help.
Dude, that's awesome. We're going to put Thomas's info and Local First Arizona's info in the show notes. So if you're checking this on YouTube and Spotify, everywhere you listen to your pods, be sure to subscribe, like, and follow. That's a wrap, fellas.